Hi there. Welcome to Tap That MTG, the show where we should tell you everything we know about Magic the Gathering. That's probably wrong, but fun to talk about. I'm Shawna,
I'm Lesley.
and today we are doing the self isolation thing and making sure we're in different places and recording the very first of our deep dive commander decks into the new set. There are 5 new
Yeah.
commander decks for Ikoria, so we're pretty excited about that. And today we are going to do like we've done for our other commander decks. We're going to dive in and tell you what's in the decks and how they're arranged in various categories. The categories we're using are the ones that Lesley showed you in the video that she did with the building your own commander formula that you can follow. Just go check that out
Homebrew.
if you haven't homebrew yet, and check that out because we're going to use that formula to see how this deck stands up to that formula.
hmm
So, Lesley, why don't you tell us what our first one is?
All right. Well, the first one we're talking about is the commander based around Otrimi, the Ever Playful. And this deck is supposed to, or the concept around this deck is all around mutation, which is a new mechanic. So we'll go over
Mm-hmm.
what that mechanic means a little bit later. But basically how you play this deck is to create one or two, we're recommending probably a couple mutated creatures,
Yeah.
then put Otrimi onto one of them, giving it trample and just swinging in. The nice thing about his ability is her, I don't know, it's beast, so it doesn't matter. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you get to return a creature with mutate from your graveyard to your hand.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter if your mutate creatures die. In fact, Otrimi is meant to make you super aggressive, swing in there with your big beasts, make them huge, and then bring your stuff back from the graveyard.
Sweet.
So yeah, fun fact with this one as well is Otrimi's trigger happens after if somebody happens to kill your creature. Let's say they block it with a death touch creature or they kill it while it's attacking. Basically, uh, your state-based actions are going to be checked first, and you can target Otrimi to bring Otrimi back. So that's a
Oh, that's
great
good.
way to get past the commander tax on this because you're going to be swinging with un like just with abandon and not worrying about anything. So it doesn't matter if
Woohoo!
Otrimi dies, you're just gonna bring him back to your hand and use him on another creature without having to pay extra. So
That sounds like
yeah,
fun.
what's the breakdown of this deck?
Well, the mana curve, sorry, not the mana curve, we won't talk about that yet. The color of this deck is about half green and a quarter blue and a quarter black. So you've got quite a bit more green mana in there, which is fine with me. And then
Mm-hmm.
we've got, as far as the overall layout of the deck, there is one planeswalker. We'll talk about that one in a minute. And there are 4 enchantments, 37 lands, so that's quite a bit, and 4 instances, and 39 creatures, 5 artifacts, and 10 sorceries. So there are quite a few spells in this deck, but there's tons of
Mm-hmm.
creatures as well.
Yeah, very creature heavy deck.
And as far as the mana curve goes, this one, Leslie and I were talking before we came on live, that it is fairly high in the mana curve, and it's kind of hard to really determine the mana curve on this because of the mutate costs on so many cards. So sometimes they're less, sometimes they're more, and it's going to be kind of strange. But it is kind of a slow deck. So if you are going to cut stuff, you don't want to cut out too much land because you do need quite a bit of land for this deck.
Mm-hmm. And if we go into now, we'll, I guess, look at some of the cards.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit about Otrimi already, but I'm going to break him down a little bit more for you. Speaking of the mutate cost and the mana
Right.
curve, you'll notice that on a Tree, the converted mana cost is actually 3 and a black and a green and a blue. So therefore, it costs 6 to just play him vanilla style.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to do that. You're going to mutate him. His mutate cost is actually less. It's only 1, a green and a black and a blue. So you can play him for 4 for his mutate, which means you have to have a creature on the battlefield first.
Right.
And then how mutate works is you're going to choose whether to put him on top or underneath. It doesn't really matter. It just your whatever the power and toughness of the creature is, whichever creature is on top. And the name in converted mana cost is whichever creature is on top. All the rest of the abilities morph into create a brand new creature with different abilities. So it kind of works like enchantments, it kind of works like bestow, it kind of works like augment, but it's different than all of those slightly because yeah, you're just creating this one creature with extra abilities. So yeah, that's our commander.
Yeah. So it's a little bit scary to have everything all in one creature. So, Lesley, you'd mentioned earlier that perhaps you should have two of these going at once, kind of thing, if you can.
Yeah, I think you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So then, someone kills your creature, it's not just the top creature that dies. Your entire creature dies because all of those abilities that you've grabbed
Mm-hmm.
from other creatures or mutated from other creatures are all part of this brand new creature. So if someone murders it with just a single spell, your whole creature dies.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing that. And if Otrimi hasn't done combat damage, then back to the command zone, and he's going to be even more expensive. And your 2 mana commander tax is going to apply to your mutate cost as well as your regular cost.
It
So
does, hey?
yeah. Hmm.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to get into that formula breakdown of the decks. So for this one, we're going to first go into the ramp or mana generating cards. So
Hmm.
the formula that Lesley laid out in her video is that the formula should have about 15 of those kinds of cards, and this deck has about 12 from what we can.
So right on par.
Yeah. So the first card we're going to take a look at is the. I'm just going to make that a little bit smaller so I can see the whole card. So Zakara or
I know we talked
Zaraxara?
about this. Zach Zara.
Zaxara. Zaxara, the exemplary. I don't know what. Anyway, it's one and a black and a green and a blue. It's 2/3 death touching nightmare Hydra, and you can tap it and add 2 mana of any one color. And whenever you cast a spell with X in its mana cost, create a 0/0 green Hydra creature token. Then put X+1 counters on it. So how does that work, Lesley?
Crazy card. Hey, it's your card. You're explaining it. You
Yeah.
explain.
So when you have something like Hydroid Crassus, which has X and a green and a blue, and you choose to say make X 4. So when you cast Hydroid Crassus where X is 4, then you would also make a 0/0 green Hydra token with 4 counters on it. So it's kind of a 2-for-1, which is really awesome.
This is a crazy card.
Yeah.
4 mana cost,
Yep.
2/3 that gets you 2 mana and has this static
Mm-hmm.
ability that just keeps creating crazy
Whenever you play
Hydra
Hydras,
tokens.
and you're going to see some Hydras in this deck.
Crazy.
All right.
The second card for mana ramp and mana generators is Fertilid. Fertilid.
We're having fun with names today.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyways, it's an elemental. It comes into play with 2/1/1 counters on it. It costs 2 and a green. So basically, it comes in as a 2/2. It costs 3. But you can pay 2 and remove 1/1 counter from it and search your library for a basic land card and put that into play tapped, and then shuffle your library. So essentially, you're getting this kind of creature on the battlefield that can act as an attacker or a blocker if you need it. But what I would recommend doing is using this twice to get some land and just ramp up your deck. That's what he's in
yeah.
there for.
Next, we have the Yavimaya Dryad, and it's a 2/1
Ooh.
for 1 and 2 green, and it has Forest Walk. So when it comes into play, you may search your library for a forest card and put it on into play tapped under target player's control. If you do, shuffle your library. So basically, what you're doing is you're making this a 2/1 unblockable because you're giving them a forest. So forest walk means if your opponent, whoever you're attacking, has a forest, then that creature that has forest walk is unblockable. So you're just giving them a mana, but you're getting an unblockable creature for it. So it's that evasion
Mm-hmm.
piece. Sweet.
Yeah. And the same is true for Island Walk, Swamp Walk, and all of that kind of thing. Basically, if it has Forest Walk, it means you can walk through the forest undeterred.
Yeah.
So the first mutate card that we have kind of in the rest of the cards is Migratory Greathorn. So it's a 3 mana cost, 3 and a green, so it costs 4. And when it comes in, um, to the battlefield, or when it mutates, you get to search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, and shuffle your library. So if you just play this as a vanilla creature, not a vanilla creature, but as a creature, it costs you 4 and it's a 3/4. You can still mutate on top of it, and then that mutation ability triggers at that point. So this could be your base creature that you get out there, or you can pay it for its mutate cost, which is 2 and a green, which is cheaper, and you can add that to another creature, whether it be on the top or the bottom. So lots of versatility with that one, and it gets you some land on a regular basis.
Sweet.
Yeah.
The next card we have is a commander staple called Animus Awakening for X and a green. It's a sorcery. Then reveal the top X cards of your library. Put all land cards from among them onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. And if you have spell mastery, so if there are 2 or more instant and or sorcery cards in your graveyard already, you get to untap those lands. So that's kind of cool. Untapped lands is
Yep.
always a nice thing.
And then we have Nisa, Steward of Elements. This is one of those cards that has X in the mana cost. You can choose what you want her loyalty to be, because she comes in with X loyalty based on whatever you pay for X. Um, she is a nice little planeswalker, our only planeswalker in this deck for now. And basically, she's in there to help you see what you have on the top of your library by scrying. You can look at cards from your library and take land um, out of that and put that onto the battlefield. And then you can also create some elementals. But what you're going to probably use her for the most is her +2 and her 0 ability, which is looking for land and scrying.
Cool, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we have Kodama's Reach for 2 and a green. It's a sorcery arcane, and it is search your library for 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards, and put one into play tapped and the other into your hand. Then shuffle your library. This just helps you dig for 2 lands, which is really handy.
Mm-hmm. Migration Path is also another great search your library for 2 basic land cards and put them onto the battlefield tapped. So this also has Cycle, and this is the first time we've seen Cycle, so I'll quickly explain
Sure.
it. The nice thing about Cycle is that it has, again, versatility. This set is all about versatility. If you have enough land and you don't need to search, you can cycle it by paying 2 and discarding the card to draw a card. So it could sit in the card draw category. It's mainly for land, but it also does that additional card draw possibility. So great
Okay,
card.
cool. And then we have a very much a commander staple, Soul Ring. It is for 1, and you can tap it and add 2 to your mana pool, so it's pretty darn handy.
Mm-hmm. Arcane Signet came out when Brawl came out,
Mm-hmm.
and this is soon and quickly becoming a commander staple as well.
Yep.
Another little artifact that taps for any 1 mana of your color, your commander's color identity. So great.
And now we have a new card called Bonder's Ornament. It's for 3, an artifact that you can tap to add 1 mana of any color. But for 4, you can tap it, and each player who controls a permanent named Bonder's Ornament draws a card. So you don't have to sacrifice it or anything. You can just use this to constantly draw some cards, which is really quite handy for
Hmm.
later in the game, especially.
Yeah, I do think this is going to definitely become a commander staple as well
Probably.
as you see more people having it in their decks and then being able to get that benefit if somebody else has it.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to have it on the battlefield when somebody else has it, so you get the benefit from theirs as well.
Yeah.
Manescape Refractor is also new, and this will also, I think, become a huge commander staple because it only costs 3. It does enter the battlefield tapped. However, it has all activated abilities of all lands on the battlefield, including yours, including any of your opponent's activated abilities. And you can spend mana as though it were mana of any color to pay the activation cost of this card. So basically, it doesn't matter if you don't have a red and there's a red mana ability across the table. You can use whatever mana you want to activate that ability. Um, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, especially when there's lands that can do damage or make creatures or just all sorts of
Yeah,
stuff.
Karn's Bastion,
Yeah, proliferate.
Rogue's Passage, Proliferate. There's
Yeah.
so many things that lands can do, especially in Commander, that you want this card. This is a great card. I love it. Love it.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the removal section. So the formula that Lesley talked about says about 15, and this deck has 17. 17 removals, so
Yeah.
let's do it.
I was just gonna say, a lot of them are also creatures, so they kind of fit in other categories as well. So they're not just straight up removal, which
Yeah.
is nice.
Yeah.
And anytime you can put cards that do more than one thing and fit more than one category, that's a great thing. So
Very much so. Like you, what was the word you used the about this deck? It's versatile. Yes, very
yeah,
versatile deck.
versatile, very versatile.
Uh, so this
Anyway, what's the first
the
one?
first one is Sawtusk Demolisher. It's a big beast for 4 and 2 green. It's a 6/6 beast that has mutate for 3 and a green, and its ability is trample. Whenever this creature mutates, destroy target non-creature permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast creature token. So that is crazy. Just keep building
Yeah,
on that guy and destroying their stuff.
yeah.
It does give them a
Same with
3/3, but
yeah, but
get
I
rid of their
mean,
big
come on.
mutated monster.
Exactly. Archipelagore is also a great uh, big beefy creature, 7/7. Its base cost is 7, or you can pay its mutate cost of 6, which is awesome. And when this creature, so this is a removal, it's in the removal section, but blue does removal a little bit differently. Of course, blue is all about removing things from combat or tapping them or putting them back into their owner's hands. So in this case, when it mutates, you can tap X target creatures, where X is the number of times this creature has mutated. Those creatures don't untap during their controller's next untap step. So if this happens to be the 5th thing you've mutated onto this card, then you get to tap 5 things and they don't untap during the next
Put them
turn.
all to
So
sleep.
it's pretty awesome. Nice little Leviathan there. And you will want to probably not just use this as the first mutate. You'll want to save him until there's a creature or a mutate creature that has a few levels on it first.
Yeah.
This deck is stacked.
True enough. Gee.
See what I did there?
Yeah, you're funny. Oh my gosh. The next creature we have is funny as well because it's a pouncing shore shark. Like, really? I think somebody was drinking
Those
when they made
arms.
this card. It's a 4/3 for 4 and a blue. It's a shark beast that has mutate for 3 and a blue. And has flash. Woohoo! My fave. Whenever this creature mutates, you may return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. So they've gone to all this work to build this big beast, and you come in here and pounce on it with the
Yeah,
shark and send it back to their
exactly.
hand.
Send it back.
on their
So
turn.
this is actually a really good, this is another question I had. What happens when you send a
Ah.
mutated creature back to their hand, your hand or their hand? Because it is an entire creature and all of those cards are part of that creature, then all of those cards get put back into their hand. So it's not like you're an enchantment where you get rid of the top creature and then all the enchantments go to the graveyard. All of those abilities or those other creatures are basically morphed into this one creature. So the entire creature, including all the other creatures that are attached to it, goes back to that person's hand. So
So you got to think about that.
yeah,
Okay.
they do have to cast them all again, which is awesome,
Sets them
but
back.
it doesn't kill all the ones underneath. Just
That's good
yeah.
to know. Good to know.
Good to know. Souvenir Snatcher. This is one that the mutate cost is more expensive than the other costs. So you can just play it for 5, or you can mutate it for 6. And it is a nice little 4/4 flyer. And whenever it mutates, you get to gain control of target non-creature artifact.
Mm.
So it's a nice little raven. He goes in and he
Stealing your
steals all
shiny
those
things.
artifacts. There's all kinds of awesome artifacts in Commander that you want to steal, so it makes sense that the mutate is a little bit more expensive.
Yeah. It's a little bit OP.
Yeah,
Um, do you get to keep it permanently?
yeah,
Yeah. You just take it from them. I take this. It's
yeah.
mine. Next we
I mean,
have,
hey, even a soul ring.
yeah, exactly. Sweet. Chittering Harvester. It is a nasty nightmare creature for 5 and a black, but its mutate is for 4 and a black, and it is whenever this creature mutates, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Sorry for your luck.
Yeah.
Sacrifice your stuff.
So, and it's important to know too that let's say you have a stack of 5 mutate creatures that say whenever this creature mutates, every time you add another creature to the stack, all of them trigger because they're all part of that same creature now, and that creature is then mutating. So you have this on a creature, every time you mutate that creature, it's going to happen. So
It's just a little
fun
little
facts.
OP.
A little
Feels
OP.
like it anyways.
Uh, Deadly Rolick
Rollick, it's
for
your
3 and a
rollicking. You're
black. Rollick?
rollicking.
You're rollicking? I've never heard that
Frolicking,
word in my life.
rollicking, I don't know.
Funnily enough, I've never heard that word. Instant. If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. Exile target creature.
For free.
And you are going to control your commander because he's super easy to pull out. So,
A
yeah,
free
for,
exiling. It's just what?
yeah,
I,
free exiling.
I don't understand. That's a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
And here we have Beast Within for 2 and a green, and it is destroy target permanent, which is really handy. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast creature token. It's a commander staple. Get rid of
Yeah, we
stuff.
don't care if they have 3/3s. Not right now. Reclamation Sage. When it enters the battlefield, you get to destroy an artifact or enchantment. So here's your artifact or enchantment removal, and it's a nice little 2/1 creature. You can mutate onto creatures like this as well, so it's good to have some of those in your deck just so that you can mutate.
Yeah. Now we've got a Trigon Predator, which is another weird beast for 1 and a green and a blue. Simic flying 2/3 that comes in. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment that player controls. So it's a constant removal,
Ooh.
which is sweet.
Mm-hmm. And Shriekmaw, it has Fear, which I'll go over in a second. And when it enters the battlefield, you get to destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature. It also has an ability called Evoke, so you can cast it for 2 if you like. So for Fear, this creature can't be blocked except by artifact creatures or by black creatures. Of course, when you entered the battlefield, you are going to destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature. So it doesn't allow you to destroy that black creature, but you can cast it for its evoke cost, which is 2. It means you're going to have to sacrifice it as it enters the
Mm.
battlefield, but you've basically destroyed that creature. So you can cast it as a creature and get both of of the abilities or both of the benefits of that for 5, or you can just say, hey, I need to remove something right away. Again, versatile.
Can you imagine if you mutate some big, huge, crazy, unblockable thing? It's just gonna
Hmm.
be so awesome. Love it, love it.
Oh, there is. And there's Rogue's Passage in this. So there is unblockable and trample and everything.
Sweet. So then we have just a regular run of the mill putrefy removal card
Run of the
for
mill.
1 black and a green that is just destroy target artifact or creature and it can't be regenerated.
Hmm.
We've seen this card before.
We have.
It's awesome.
And Crowsun's Grip is another one that we've seen before. It has Split Second, and you get to destroy target artifact or enchantment. You cast the spell, it goes on the stack, and it has Split Second. And Split Second basically, again, you can read that on the card. Rule of thumb, it's usually on the card how it works. If it's not on the card, you can look it up. But as long as this spell is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activated abilities that aren't mana abilities. So, mana ability is basically something that taps for mana. They can still tap their creatures for mana, but they can't try and save their creature by paying for X ability, or sorry, save their artifact or enchantment by paying for some ability
Right.
that returns it to their hand or something like that. So, basically, kind of stops them casting spells and trying to save what you're trying to destroy.
Nice. Next, we have Gaze of Granite, which is a lovely little Medusa sorcery for X, 2 black and a green, and you destroy all each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X or less. It's just board
Yep.
wipe here. Nice.
Yeah, into the board wipes. Deadly Tempest is another great little board wipe that they have in here. Destroy all creatures. Each player loses life equal to the number of creatures he and she controls that were destroyed this way. This is a great card for this deck because you're probably only going to have 1 or 2 creatures out at a time. Yes, it would be very sad if you had to destroy yours, but if somebody has a million goblins on the battlefield
You're gonna die anyway.
or a million vampires on the
I never do that.
battlefield, you can just destroy and
Oh,
wipe the board and start again and just mutate away.
another really great card that is in lots of Golgari decks, which I really like, is called Find Finality. So what that is it's a special card that has two. You choose. It's got 2 cards on it basically, and you choose one. So Find is you can return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand, or you can put 2/1/1 counters on a creature you control, which is your nice morph or mutated creature. Then all creatures get -4/-4 until end of turn. So that's a great way again to get
Mm-hmm.
rid of everything except yours. Sweet.
Mm-hmm. And Parasitic Impetus
It's beautiful.
is a wonderful little
It's
enchantment
beautiful.
that you're going to use not to enchant your own creatures. You're going to use it to enchant your friends or your enemies' creatures. This one gives your enemy creature +2/+2, but it's goaded. So you're like, well, why would I give my enemy creature +2/+2? Goaded makes sure that they attack each combat if able, and they attack a player other than you. So once you get down to the nitty gritty and it's just the 2 of you left, yes, you're going to have to deal with that. However, whenever the enchanted creature attacks, its controller is going to lose 2 life and you're going to gain 2 life. And it has to attack because it has to attack each combat if able. So every time, every combat until the creature is dead. So you're either removing it or you're removing some other creatures on the battlefield that are your other opponents because you've given this creature +2/+2 and made it hard to kill.
Yeah.
So you've made a friend for a little bit and gained some life, or you've made an enemy and I don't know, Commander. It's all about friends and
Politics,
enemies.
politics, and Commander for sure. Next, we have a similar card. It's called Predatory Impetus for 4 and a green. It's an enchantment aura, again, where you enchant your opponent's creature, and it gets +3/+3 and must be blocked if able and is goaded. So it forces other people to block this big beast that you just made for your opponent, not
Mm-hmm.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, works kind of the same. So our next section is card draw slash tutor cards. There's not really any tutor cards in this deck, but there are definitely card draw. The formula we talk about, it has 13, or it requires 13 card draw, but this deck only has 8. So that was one thing that we talked about possibly tweaking. So we have some suggestions at the end of this for possible tweaks, and we'll talk about what you can add to this deck to add more card draw. But the first one is Cold-Eyed Selkie. Is a merfolk rogue with island walk, which again means you can walk through the islands without being blocked. If they have islands, this is unblockable. So whenever Cold-Eyed Selkie deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card, or you may draw that many cards. Now think, if you have put this on the battlefield as a creature, then you've mutated your
Mm-hmm.
commander onto this creature. It now is a 6/6
So, yeah.
with all of the commander's abilities, plus it has
Whew.
Island Walk and it can't be blocked, and you get to draw 6 cards. So it might not have a lot of
What?
card draw in this deck, but there are a lot of ways to get lots of cards in your hand. So
Mm-hmm.
great card.
When you start thinking about that mutate, it just makes these things crazy.
Yeah.
Beast Whisperer for 2 and 2 green. It's a 2/3. Whenever you cast a creature spell, which there are a lot of, you get to draw a card. He's pretty nice. I like him.
Mm-hmm. Masked Admirers for 2 and 2 forests. Is a creature elf shaman. It's a 3/2, so it's a little bit aggressive. And when it enters the battlefield, you get to draw a card. The nice thing about this is that it has an additional ability that you can cast a creature spell, whenever you cast a creature spell, you can pay 2 green. And if you do, you can return this from your graveyard to your hand. So again, you're bringing things back from the
Yep.
graveyard. Hopefully, no one has any graveyard hate.
Yeah. Just depends on your play group. Dreamtail Heron. This is a beautiful 3/4 for 4 and a blue elemental bird that has mutate, and its mutate cost is 3 and a blue. And flying, it's a flyer, so whenever this creature mutates, you get to draw a card. So there you are with lots of mutating and lots of drawing cards.
Yeah, every time it mutates.
Sweet.
Illusionary Ambusher costs 5, so it's pretty expensive, but it does have flash, which is great. And when it's dealt, whenever Illusionary Ambusher is dealt damage, you get to draw that many cards. So yes, it only has 1 life, but if someone does 5 damage to it, doesn't matter whether you only have 1 life or not. It's still taken 5 damage. You get to
Mm-hmm.
draw 5 cards.
So you throw her in there to take one for the team, and
Yeah,
there you go. Drawing a whole bunch of
and
cards.
just swing in for 4, and they're gonna want to block. Basically, you're gonna want to be aggressive with this card just so that you can get the card draw.
Yeah, you want it to die.
Yeah,
Um, Unless it's mutated onto something crazy. I'm like, geez, why not? Sweet.
exactly.
We're going to keep going there with that. Mull Drifter for 4 and a blue. It's a 2/2 flying little elemental fishy looking thing that when it enters battlefield, draw 2 cards. Or you can evoke it for 2 and a blue. So that is, if you cast that, it's sacrificed when it enters the battlefield. So you can
Mm-hmm.
do it for cheaper, but you just don't get to have the creature stick around. But that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mind Spring. This one is another card with X in the mana cost. Just saying. So 2 blue and X, you get to draw X cards.
So good.
Great card for this deck,
Yeah.
and you can draw as many as you need.
Lifecrafter's Bestiary for 3. It is an artifact that has beginning of your upkeep scry 1. And whenever you cast a creature spell, you may pay 1 green, and if you do, draw a card. So it's one of those things that's hard to get rid of, and it's going to sit there and draw you cards. It's so awesome.
Mm-hmm. Underrated for
Mm-hmm.
sure. All right. My favorite section, high impact creatures. So
Sweet.
our formula that we talk about says, hey, you should have at least 12 high impact creatures. Guess how many this deck has?
12.
12. So it fits right in there. I would say what goes into high impact creatures. It's hard. There's a lot of creatures we've already talked about that have a really high
Mm.
impact. These are ones that we looked at and went, oh my God, are you kidding me? So that's what makes it into this category. Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Exactly.
Auspicious Starrix is a elk beast that costs either 5 for a 6/6, or you can use its mutate cost. Now, its mutation is awesome, which is why it costs more. It actually costs 5 in a grain. Whenever it mutates, you get to exile cards from the top of your library until you exile X permanents. X is the number of times this creature has been mutated. So you're going to want to not put it on the bottom. Or, well, I guess you can put it on the bottom. Sorry. You're not going to want this to be the first one on the stack of mutations. And then you can put those permanent cards onto the battlefield. So, like, just onto the battlefield. You don't even
You
have to
don't have
play
to
them.
pay.
No. So, if it's the 5th mutation, you got 5 cards for free.
So suddenly you have a lot
And
more
it's
creatures.
permanent cards. It's not
Oh yeah, it is
it's
permanent cards, not just creatures.
so
Sweet.
it's not just creatures. It's anything. All of those cards. Lands are permanents. That's crazy.
What? X permanent cards. Wow. Yeah, I'm finally understanding that card myself. Permanents.
Yeah.
Even land.
Now you know why. It was like, oh my God, are you kidding me?
Whoa. That's insane. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the Boneyard Lurker, he is a 4/4 for 2 in a black and a green, and his mutate is for the same. No. Well, it uses hybrid mana. Whenever this creature mutates, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. So that's another one of those cards that can get you some stuff back out of your graveyard. Sweet.
Yeah, really good impact there. Insatiable Hemophage is a creature nightmare. It costs 3 and a black for its regular cost, or its mutate cost is 2 and a black. It has Death Touch. It's a nice little 3/3 Death Toucher. But whenever this creature mutates, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is the number of times this creature has mutated. Again, let's put it on the stack 5 from the top. Everyone loses 5 life, you gain 5 life, and now you have a 3/3 Death Toucher with 4 other abilities.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Mind Leecher for 4 and 2 black. It's a 5/5 flyer, or its menace. Its mutate cost is for 4 and a black, and it is whenever this creature mutates, exile the top card of each opponent's library face down. You may look at and play those cards for as long as they remain exiled.
Yeah.
It's just stealing their stuff.
You do have to pay for those ones because it says you can play them. So then we get into the fun Hydra
Hydras.
cards that are in this deck. So they all made it into the high impact because Hydras. So Hungering Hydra, not a new card, but an awesome card. Another Hydra. Almost all Hydras have X in the mana cost. So that's why that other Hydra is in this deck. So it's X and a green. It enters the battlefield with X/1/1 counters. It can't be blocked by more than one creature. And when it is dealt combat damage, you can put that many 1/1 counters on it. So, yeah, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
And nobody wants to block it because it just gets more counters.
And no one wants to block it. And if you put your
kill.
commander on it and mutate your commander on it, yeah. It's pretty awesome. So another thing actually with mutate, all this stuff keeps coming up. So if you put if this already has counters on it and you mutate on top of it, those counters will stay. So it's not like it becomes a brand new creature. It doesn't leave the battlefield and come on. It just kind of morphs with that creature. So
the counters stay.
You get to keep the counters.
Nice.
Yeah.
Genesis Hydra is another Hydra for X and 2 green, and it is whenever you cast, when you cast Genesis Hydra, reveal the top X cards of your library. You may put a non-land permanent card with converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield, then shuffle the rest into your library. And it enters the battlefield with X/1/1 counters on it. So There again, you're digging for stuff that you want to put on the battlefield.
Yep, and an X.
Nice, nice.
Uh, then we have another Hydra that doesn't have an X in the mana cost, but it is 3 and 2 green. It enters the battlefield with 4/1/1 counters on it, and then you can pay 4 to put X/1/1 counters on it, where X is its power. So I love this card. It starts with 4, and then you pay 4, and then it's 8, and then you pay 4, and then it's 16, and then you pay another 4, and then it just keeps going. And this is not a tap ability, so you can do that as many times as you want in a particular turn, as long as you have the mana for it.
At instant speed as well.
Let's make it trample.
Yeah. There are counters for that. Vastwood Hydra for X and 2 green. It enters the battlefield with X+1/+1 counters on it, and when it dies, you may distribute a number of +1/+1 counters equal to the number of +1 counters on the Hydra among any other number of creatures you control. So it dies, but it gives all of its power to everyone else, which is cool.
Yep. And Predator Ooze, this one's cool because it only costs 3. It is 3 green, but it's a 1/1 indestructible. So if this is your base creature, and we've talked about your creatures being easy to kill,
sweet.
This is a great way to have this as your base creature and then build upon it, and now whatever creature you adapted it to or mutated it to is also indestructible. Also, when it attacks, you get to put a 1/1 counter on it. So it's going to just keep getting bigger whenever it's dealt damage. You get to put a 1/1 counter on it as well. So it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's indestructible. So
that's insane.
Insane. Oh, you get the partner card.
Oh, yay.
Cool.
So Yukima, Stalking Shadow, believe it or not, is a wolf, but a whale wolf. For 1, a blue and a black. It's a 2/2 whale wolf, which is so weird. And it partners with Kazur, the Ruthless Stalker, and it can't be blocked. And when it leaves the battlefield, it deals X damage to target player, and you gain X life, where X is its power. So we're going to try to make this guy as big as possible. And I'll do his partner as well, Kazur, the Ruthless Stalker, for 3 and a green. It's a 3/3. So it has, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on that creature. So you're going to get your guy bigger and bigger. So to do this, when this creature enters the battlefield, target player may put the other one into their hand from their library, then shuffle. So with the partner, you just go and get this partner out of your deck, and then you get to put them out, which is nice.
So Vorapede is our next one. It's 2 and 3 green, so a little bit harder to play. Again, don't take too much green out of this deck. Vigilance and Trample. It's a 5/4, and it has Undying. So if it dies, when it dies for the first time, if it doesn't have any 1/1 counters on it, it just comes back with a 1/1 counter on it. So it becomes a 6/5. So, try and kill it. That's fine.
That's okay.
That's a great one to have as your base.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So then we're into the next section, which is other cards that are on the theme, or other win conditions or specialty kinds of cards that don't really fit into other categories. So the formula for that one is 10, and this deck has 11. So right on target there. The first one we're going to look at is Villainous Wealth, and it's for X, a green, a black, and a blue, and target opponent exiles the top X cards of his or her library. You may cast any number of non-land cards with converted mana cost X or less from among them without paying their mana cost. Steal all their stuff. Play it for yourself. Sweet.
That's crazy. That's an awesome win condition. Not a new card, but a good card. Dredge the Mire is a new card. It is for 3 and a black. It's a sorcery card, and each opponent chooses a creature card from their graveyard. You put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. So, they're trying to have things in their graveyard. They get to choose, but hopefully they give you something that has some versatility, because they've created a good deck too.
Nice. Then we have a little fairy wizard that Lesley likes. It's Widwin the Biting Gale for 2, a blue and a black, and it has flash. A 3/3 flyer, which is always a good thing, and you can pay a blue and a black and pay 1 life and return this to its owner's hand, so you can rescue her when you need to. It's really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Capricopian is a goat Hydra. So we have another Hydra with X in
A
the
goat.
mana cost. And it's a goat, because why not? Enters the battlefield with X/1/1 counters on it, so you can make it as big as you want, and then you can pay 2 and put a 1/1 counter on it. You may reselect which player it's attacking. So
What?
any player, sorry, only the player Capricornian is attacking may activate this ability, and only during the declare attacker step. So basically, I'm going to swing this at Shawna. Shawna can use that ability to put a
No!
1/1 counter on it. So that's the benefit to you for her choosing that it doesn't attack her, and she chooses somebody else that it's going to attack. Now, if she's smart, she'll choose someone with Death Touch that can block it. So you're going to talk around the table. This is a great card for allowing people to kind of like talk amongst each other and figure out how to deal with this, because it's just going to keep getting bigger.
Be stupid. Wonder if it's something to do with the Capricorn. I don't know. I know that's a goat. Capricorn is a goat, but I'm just wondering if it has something to do with the horoscope or something. I don't know.
Too much self-isolation.
Yeah. Boneyard Mycodrax. It's a fungus for 2 and a black, and it is power and toughness are each equal to the number of other creature cards in your graveyard, and you can scavenge for 4 and a black. And that means you can exile this card from your graveyard and put a number of 1/1 counters equal to this card's power on target creature. Scavenge only as a sorcery.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of nice.
So it has to be in your graveyard to use that scavenge ability, correct?
Yeah.
So Glowstone Recluse for 2 and a green is another mutate little spider. It's got reach. When this creature mutates, you get to put 2 1/1 counters on it. So it's a nice little, it fits within the theme. It's not, exceptional or anything like that, but it fits with the mutation, and a nice little card that gives you reach.
Then we have a Cavern Whisperer for 4 and a black, a 4/4 that has mutate for 3 and a black, and it has menace. And whenever this creature mutates, each opponent discards a card, which is really nice to do to someone. Take the cards away.
So Trumpeting Gnarl, I wasn't sure whether we should put this in the high impact cards or into this section, but I didn't think the impact was high enough. It is pretty cheap though. It's 3 for a 3/3.
It's a good start.
Its mutate cost is a bit higher because every time it mutates, you get to create a 3/3 green beast creature token. So this is actually a nice one to play for its 3 mana cost, and then mutate on top of it. So this will be like your base creature.
Yeah, that's
that you
what I was
start
thinking.
with.
The base creature would be good for.
Yeah.
The Silent Arbiter is a artifact creature for 4, and it says no more than 1 creature can attack each combat, and no more than 1 creature can block each combat. It's a 1/5, so it's just out there as a support for your big beast, so that they can only block with 1, and you only swing with the 1 because that's all you got. So.
Tidal Barracuda. The song's just popping into my head. Barracuda. A player may cast spells. Any player may cast spells as if they had flash, and your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. So, yeah, except for that you've given things flash, and then your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. So they can only cast spells during other opponents' turns. So that's kind of fun.
Could be some political happenings there with that one. Profane Command for X and 2 black, a sorcery that has, you can choose 2 of them. Target player loses X life. return target creature card with converted mana cost X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, or target creature gets -X/-X till end of turn, or up to X target creatures gain fear until end of turn. And fear is that it can't be blocked unless it's
By
black.
artifacts or
Yeah.
black. Yeah.
So, yeah, sweet.
Propaganda is another good shenanigans card. Basically, it makes it harder for them to attack. Creatures can't attack unless your controller plays 2 for each creature he or she controls that's attacking you. So,
How rude.
yeah,
A
how rude.
psychic,
That's true.
psychic impetus for 2 and a blue. Um, you enchant a creature, and enchant a creature is +2/+2 and is goaded. So that's, again, you put that on someone else's creature like we talked about before, and whenever an enchanted creature attacks, you scry too. So they have to attack with it,
Mm-hmm.
so you're going to be scrying too whenever they're attacking with that. It's someone else. Nice.
All right, moving on to the land.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to spend a ton of time. We're going to talk about these lands in groupings. Um, we recommend 32 land in a commander deck. This one has 37, but just like all pre-made decks that Wizards comes out with, land is kind of where you can start the tweak. So you can get rid of some of the basic lands in this deck and put in some other tweaks later on. So I'll start with going through quickly the lands that do other things. So Blighted Wood, you can sacrifice it to search for 2 basic land cards. Otherwise, it just adds a regular colorless mana. Endless Sands, there's 2 abilities on that one. You can exile target creature you control and sacrifice Endless Sands to return each creature target that you exiled back to the battlefield. So can kind of
Wow.
protect your creatures for a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, Mortuary Mire enters the battlefield. You can put target creature card from your graveyard to your library or on top of your library, so it gets something back. Rogue's Passage can make something unblockable. Soaring Sea Cliff enters the battlefield, and a creature that you control gains flying, which
Nice.
would be very handy if you have a big beefy creature. And then Temple of the False
Yeah.
Gods, you can tap it to add 2, but I will say that this does nothing on the battlefield until you have 5 or more lands. So if you put this out as your first land, don't think that you can use it
Nope.
to even just tap for 1. It actually doesn't tap for anything until you have 5 land.
Okay.
Okay.
And then we have the staples, the commander staple lands. So like command tower, which can be any color in your commander's color identity, exotic orchard, um, any mana of any color that a land that an opponent controls can produce. Opulent Palace. It's for either black, green, or blue. Darkwater Catacombs. It's for 2, which is nice. You pay 1. And Demir Aqueduct, it's for 2 as well. And Dismal Backwater, it's one of the life gain ones. I'll just keep going, I guess. Sunken Hollow,
Sure.
it's a oh right, it's the one of the ones that comes in and it's not tapped if you control 2 or more basic lands. Golgari Rot Farm, it's the black and green version. And then Jungle Hollow is the black and green version of Gaining a Life. And Llanowar Waste deals a damage to you if you want to make it green or black. I'll let Leslie do some more.
Well, we are just going through the dual lands, right?
Yeah.
So there's 2 that are green and blue, Simic Growth
Yeah.
Chamber and Thronewood Falls, and then the last one is Myriad Landscape, which basically you can sacrifice to search for 2 basic lands. Otherwise, it just taps for colorless.
Mm-hmm.
So um, decent lands. There's always room for tweaking lands and putting different lands in there that are better, of course. They can't give you all of the really expensive lands. So if you want to upgrade your deck, that's a good place to start. There are 11 forests, 5 swamps, and 2 islands in this deck. And that's where I would start tweaking. Again, there is a lot more forest than any other,
Yeah.
and that's probably where I would start taking out. However, half of this deck is green, so don't take out too many of the
Don't go
forests,
crazy.
or make sure, I mean, there are dual lands that have green, and so just make sure that you have enough dual lands in there that you can tap for the colors that you need or things that tap for any color.
Yeah.
So all right. So that's pretty much it. If you just want to go out and buy the deck as is, then you're good. You can turn off this video. But if you want to know how we would tweak this deck, we have a few more minutes of some of the tweaks that we've come up with. Why don't you start with the first tweaks there, Shawna? Because I know you love these next ones.
Yeah. So land tweaks, Fabled Passage, which is an expensive version of Evolving Wilds. So basically, if you have 4 lands out when you put this out, it being the fourth, you can tap and sacrifice and go searching and bring in a land untapped. Whereas Evolving Wilds is always comes in tapped or always comes in and you sacrifice it, and your land that you go and get um, has to be tapped. So
Mm-hmm.
that's some pretty good staples for commander decks. You can go grab those for sure.
Mm-hmm. So then, as far as the way this deck was set up in comparison to our formula, and again, it's not the only formula out there, so whatever. But there wasn't a lot of card draw, so we looked for some cards that had some card draw that would also fit into this deck really nicely. So Hydroid Krasis is one of the first ones. It has X in its mana cost. It fits the commander colors. It has flying and trample, which are great for this deck. And when it enters the battlefield, you get X/1/1 counters, so that fits with the whole counter synergy. When you cast a spell, you gain half X life, where and you draw half X cards. So that's the key in there is you're going to get some card draw, you're going to get some life gain, you're going to get flying and trample. Really good card. It is a little bit on the expensive side, this card. So
To buy.
if you
Yeah.
happen to have one, put it in. But it's not a must have for this deck. So don't go spend $40 or whatever it's at right
Yeah.
now on it.
Then Then we have Abomination of Gudul, which is for 3, a black, a green, and blue. It's a horror creature that is a 3/4 flyer. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card if you do discard a card. You can
Mm-hmm.
morph this for cheaper and put it face down as a 2/2 creature and then just flip it up whenever you need to, whenever you got the mana to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Keeper of Fable, oh my gosh, you know what? I never even thought about what happens if you have a morph creature that's a 2/2 face down, and then you use that creature to morph, and then you flip that other creature up. Does it just flip up underneath and those abilities get added to your creature that is now morphed? Or does it become a new creature and detaches from? I don't know
Mm,
the answer to that question. If there's any judges
we'll
that
have
are
to check
watching
that one.
this or anybody that knows, please put it in the comments down below or comment on our podcast. That would be great. So Keeper of Fables is another one that we thought might fit in this. Of course, you're not going to take out a bunch of cards and put all of these in. These are just options
Yeah.
for you. So this one costs 5. It is a 4/5, and when one or more non-human creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you get to draw a card. There's a high likelihood you're doing combat damage with this deck, and you get to draw cards because of it. So
Yeah.
it fits the synergy there.
Then we have Benefactor's Draft for 1 and a green. It's an instant that lets you untap all your creatures, which is nice. And until end of turn, whenever a creature an opponent controls blocks, draw a card. And then you draw a card. Anyways,
Yeah.
so it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, a nice little combat
Yeah.
trick. So Bread for the Hunt is an enchantment. So this is something that is nice because it's just going to sit on the battlefield until someone gets rid of it. But whenever a creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it, which there are lots of,
Mm-hmm.
deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. So again, a
Yeah.
lot of the suggestions we have are dealing combat damage. So you do have to kind of weigh the pros and cons of that. But yeah, that's great.
Nice. And then another one that just came out with Throne of Eldraine is Return of the Wild Speaker. It is a 4 and a green instant that you can choose one, draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control, which is pretty much everything you have, or you
Mm-hmm.
can choose non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. So this can be a game-winning card for you, or it could be helping you as the game progresses. Yeah.
So then there was a bunch of cards, and not all the spoilers are out yet. So by the time this comes out,
Yeah.
there's probably more cards that you could do, but you can just do a quick. I mean, mutate is the keyword here. You can search for mutate and the colors of this deck being black, green, and blue. Brokos, Apex of Forever, is a mythic nightmare beast elemental. Its mutate is 2 hybrid mana green green, and it is a 6/6 trample. And when you cast him from your graveyard, or sorry, you may cast him from the graveyard using his mutate. So he can just keep coming back from the graveyard by mutating
Forever.
forever, Apex of Forever. I love this card, and I definitely, if I get this card, will be putting it
Yep.
in this deck if I get this deck, which I probably will.
Yeah, let's face it. Dirge Bat for 2 and a black. It's another mutate flash flying 3/3. So that's always nice to flash in a black guy. And whenever this creature mutates, destroy target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. So you flash it in there and you kill something. Sweet.
And I love that it's creature or planeswalker.
Yeah, we need some more planeswalker
Yeah,
removal.
yeah. Gem Razor for 3 and a green, and it's a 4/4 reach trample. Whenever this creature mutates, destroy target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls, so that you can just
Mm-hmm.
keep getting rid of all those artifact decks that are out there. You can just keep destroying their
Yep.
artifacts and killing them. Its mutate cost is only 3, so we thought this would be a great card.
Yeah. And then there's this cool little mysterious egg for 1. It's an artifact. Sorry, it's not an artifact. It's a creature. That's an egg. It's a 0/2. And whenever this creature mutates, put a 1/1 counter on it. So it's a good little way just to keep making them bigger.
Yeah.
Start with that.
Speaking of 1/1 counters, right? So Polywog Symbiote, this is one that I definitely think it's an uncommon. It's going to be easy to find, and I think should absolutely go in this deck. I don't know why it wasn't in there to begin with, but each creature spell you cast costs 1 less to cast if it has mutate. Why would you not want this in your deck? Whenever you cast a creature spell, if it has mutate, you get to draw a card, then you get to discard a card. So it helps with the card draw. It makes your mutate cost less. There's so many reasons to have this in your deck. So I would definitely put it in this deck.
Zagoth Mamba, Nightmare Snake for 1. It's a 1/1. I just love this card. Whenever this creature mutates, target creature an opponent controls gets -2/-2 until end of turn. I'm just going to
Mm-hmm.
slowly suck your life from you. I love it.
At least it's only till the end of turn. Kill their little guys.
Yeah.
um, Hydras, and quote unquote other cards that we found as well. Colonian Hydra for 3 and 2 green has trample. When it enters the battlefield with 4/1/1 counters on it, and whenever it attacks, you get to double the number of 1/1 counters on each creature you control. So now you have a couple, because we've talked about you have 2 or 3 mutate creatures. Probably all of them are Hydras in some way,
Hopefully.
shape, or form. And you just keep doubling them and making them bigger and bigger and bigger. So
So fun.
people will probably board wipe you a lot if you're playing this deck.
You're the threat. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And then my girl Viv is back in this set, so I'm really, really excited to see her. She is a monsters advocate and a legendary planeswalker, of course, with 3 loyalty. And her static ability is you may look at the top of your library at any time. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. And you can do her +1 is create a 3/3 green beast creature token, put your choice of vigilance counter, reach counter, or a trample counter. And those counters stay on those things.
Yeah.
-2, when you cast your next creature spell this turn, search your library for a creature card with lesser converted mana cost and put it onto the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. That's your -2. You can do
Mm-hmm.
that right away.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So yeah, I think Viv is definitely a great card for this. It fits really well within
Mm-hmm.
this
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
deck.
I really like her.
So that is it for this time. Thank you so much for watching or listening. We are available on YouTube and podcast wherever you like to download your podcasts. You can feel free to connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We definitely love to hear from you, hear what you think about this deck. That's it for this time, and until next time,
Tap those
tap those
magic
magic
cards and
cards
have
and
fun doing it.
yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.